You know, George Orwell's novel 1984, it wasn't some crystal ball prophecy. It was more like a deep mechanical breakdown of how totalitarianism thinks. And today, 75 years later, its ideas give us this incredibly sharp way of looking at one of the most complicated information battlegrounds on the planet. So how can a dystopian novel from decades ago help us see today more clearly? Let's get into it.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You're just constantly swimming in stories and counter-stories and things that are just flat-out lies. That feeling of confusion? That's not an accident. A lot of the time, that's the actual goal of information warfare. And that's exactly where a classic book can hand us a surprisingly modern toolkit.
Because what Taiwan is up against today isn't just about spotting fake news. No, it's a whole systematic effort to chip away at trust, to drive wedges in society, and really to get inside people's heads. And that kind of control is exactly what Orwell took apart with such chilling detail.
Okay, so to really get what's happening now, we first have to understand the key ideas from the book. You can think of these as the basic tools Orwell gives us to see how reality itself can be bent and twisted.
First up, we've got doublethink. Now, this is more than just being a hypocrite. It's a kind of disciplined mental gymnastics, where you consciously tell a lie while also genuinely believing it. It's the secret sauce that lets a whole system of control work because the people enforcing the lies don't get tripped up by them. These slogans are doublethink in neon lights. Every single one is a massive contradiction. War is what keeps the peace and the power structure at home. Giving up all your freedom, slavery basically, is sold as the only true freedom. And keeping the public in the dark is what makes the regime strong. Logic gets turned completely upside down.
Next up is newspeak. And the whole point of this is just sinister. See, most languages grow to help us express more ideas. Newspeak was designed to do the exact opposite, to shrink language so much that you shrink the very possibility of having certain thoughts.
Just think about that for a second. If you don't have words for things like freedom or rebellion or individuality, can you even properly form those thoughts? The party's big bet was that by killing the words, they could kill the ideas behind them. They could make a thought crime literally impossible to think.
And this brings us to the third big pillar, the idea that the past isn't a fixed thing. In the book, the main character Winston's entire job is to constantly rewrite history. If the party makes a bad prediction or changes who its enemy is, the past gets edited so that the party looks like it was always right, always perfect.
This quote, it's chilling, and it perfectly sums up the party's entire philosophy. History only exists in two places, in records and in our memories. So if you control both of those things right now, in the present, you basically own history. And if you own the story of the past, you get to decide what's possible for the future.
Okay, so now let's make the jump. Let's go from the fictional world of Oceania to the very, very real information war that Taiwan is facing every single day. The parallels here are, well, they're pretty striking, and honestly, pretty concerning.
This slide shows you the modern version of Winston's job. What it used to do by hand at the Ministry of Truth is now being done at a massive scale with digital tools. We see things like narrative laundering, where a fake story gets repeated across so many different sites that it starts to look legit. And at the same time, armies of bots can create this illusion that tons of people believe it, effectively rewriting the present past as it happens.
The info campaigns that target Taiwan often aren't about just one fake news article. They're about building these deep narratives over time. And one of the biggest ones is this idea that Taiwan's main ally, the United States, is totally unreliable and is just going to abandon them.
And boom, here's the doublethink. The very same society that's being told the U.S. can't be trusted also completely depends on the U.S. for its defense. Forcing people to hold both of those ideas in their heads at once, we need their protection and they're going to betray us, creates so much anxiety and distrust. It's a classic strategy to weaken a democracy from the inside out.
This table really puts it all together, mapping Orwell's ideas right onto today's world. We've got doublethink in those conflicting narratives about the US. We've got a new kind of newspeak in how online arguments get boiled down to these simple, angry slogans. Orwell actually called that duckspeak, mindless quacking of party lines. And the constant pressure from the outside, that becomes a new war is peace, a forever conflict designed to drain resources. And finally, you have a new version of the unperson.
So, in 1984, an unperson was someone who was just erased from every record. Today, that idea is being used against an entire country. Every time an international airline or a hotel chain gets pressured to list Taiwan as a province of China on its website, that's a small act of digital unpersoning. It's an attempt to erase Taiwan's very existence from the world's consciousness.
But here's the thing. This is not a story about how everything is doomed. Not at all. In fact, the way people are responding to all this is a huge story about how resilient a democracy can be. And it's a really sharp contrast to Orwell's super bleak ending.
Winston's rebellion was a lonely, tragic fight. He was just one guy against this massive system, and in the end, the system just completely broke him. The huge difference today is how the resistance works. It's not about one person writing in a secret diary, it's about whole communities, all connected, fighting back together.
A really powerful real-world example is this organization called Doublethink Lab. I mean, the name itself is a statement. They're taking Orwell's warning not as something to be scared of, but as a blueprint for the very threat they're fighting. They bring together tech people, researchers, and activists to track this stuff and build a collective immune system for democracy.
So at the end of the day, the fight against this kind of modern totalitarian logic isn't about some lone hero. It's about building systems of collective intelligence. Taiwan's experience really shows that the best answer to coordinated disinformation is a coordinated defense. It's a direct challenge to that old Orwellian idea that one person alone will always be defeated.
And really, it all comes down to this, doesn't it? In the novel, Winston's final act of rebellion before he's completely broken is just to insist that 2 + 2 = 4. It's the simple, stubborn defense of objective reality. And in an age where truth itself feels like it's under attack, maybe the most powerful thing we can do as individuals and as a community is to have the courage to defend what's real. Which leaves us with a pretty big question. How do we, all together, make sure that simple equation stays true?